Okay, let's go. Parshas Truma. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Hashem said to Moshe as follows: Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yichu li truma, and take from me truma. Truma means here tzedakah. Take from me tzedakah. Me'ez kol ish asher yidvenu libo, from anybody who wants to donate, tichu es trumasi. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, the word teruma is an unusual word. When someone hears the word teruma, what do you think of? What do you normally think of when you hear the word teruma?
It's like you
give to the Kohen. You know, you think of a bushel of apples or oranges that you just harvested from your field, and now you have to give a certain amount to the Kohen. And after Truma, you give Maser. And after Maser, you give Maser Sheni or Maser Oni. That means it's an unusual word for tzedakah. Truma is often used in conjunction with a Kohen, not with tzedakah. We often say Truma means a gift, but it's an unusual word. So the Meforshim, they try to break down the word. Teruma is a combination of two words. Teru, which in Aramaic, tre means two, and ma, mem hey, often is referred to as mem aleph hey, meo. 2 out of 100, which is how much the shiur, the amount of truma is. If I have 100 bushels of apples, I'm supposed to give 2 bushels to the Kohen. That's the truma. The average, 1 out of 50. 1 bushel for every 50 bushels. A very generous person gives 1 out of 40, and a stingy person gives 1 out of 60. Those are the shiur. Okay. Now, let's go a little bit further. Moshe Sternbuch says something very interesting, but we'll get there in a moment. Another way of looking at truma is trei mea, which is 20 out of 100, which is 20%. Everybody thinks how much tzedakah they're supposed to give? 10%. Maaser. The truth is, 10% is the minimum. You're supposed to give 20%. That means the amount you're supposed to give is 20. If you're very wealthy, you could afford to give 30 or 40. So it depends on your station in life. But the truth is, you should be giving more than 10. You should be giving 20%. Now, many people have great difficulty even giving 10%. But from a halacha point of view...
Excuse me, 10% from what amount?
10% of what you earn, less your taxes that you pay.
Like
Okay, that's what you give. Now, it's very interesting, the word truma again. Because if I'm a farmer, and I have 100 bushels of apples, before I give truma, what are those bushels called? Tevel. You know what tevel means? I can't eat any of it. That means of those 100 bushels, if I don't give truma, what am I allowed to eat? Nothing.
Why?
Because it's asur, it's forbidden to you until you give the Kohen his truma, the Levi his maaser, until you fix it. It's freshly picked fruits in Israel that is chayev truma. You're not allowed to eat it. You can't touch it. If it's Shabbos, you can't fix it on Shabbos. You can't give truma on Shabbos because you can't fix things on Shabbos.
But if I leave my state, I live few thousand miles from Beit HaMikdash.
This is not about Beit HaMikdash. This is not Bikurim. This is to give to your local Kohen. Every city had Kohanim. There were 48 cities of Kohanim all over Israel. Okay? You're a farmer. You just harvested your field. You have bushels of wheat and carrots and tomatoes and oranges and apples. You call your local Kohen, he says, come down, I have things to give you. And when you give the Kohen his portion, now the rest you can use. Same thing is with money. A person gets a paycheck, $100 check. That money is like tevel. Until you give off the maaser, who does the money belong to? Hashem, not you. So it's interesting that they look at money the same way as we look at produce. That the produce is forbidden until you give truma. Then they use the same word truma. That's what Moshe Sternbuch says. The same word truma is used for money, tzedakah, in theory. You cannot use the money until you give off your maaser. Once you give off the maaser, 10% went to tzedakah, the $90, I can spend it. That's what he says. Now, the Rambam. The Rambam makes an unusual statement. The Rambam says that there is no greater mitzvah in the Torah than the mitzvah of tzedakah. But that's an unusual statement. Because I could have thought the Rambam could have said there's no greater mitzvah than Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm the Lord your God. Or Kibbur Avayim, or Shabbos, or Yom Kippur, or Rosh Hashanah. There are hundreds of mitzvahs the Rambam could have chosen. The Rambam says that the greatest mitzvah in the Torah is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Very fascinating Rambam. Now, Rav Lev Steinman, who recently passed away at the age of 104, someone once went to him and said to him that there was a wealthy man in America who died young. Any reason why he died young? So Rav Steinman says he didn't give ma'aser. So the person says, with all due respect, he was a very wealthy man. I know he gave a lot of money to tzedakah. Okay? Rav Steinman says, didn't give enough. Okay? Very bold statement. So this person said to Rav Steinman, can I publicize this that you're saying? Rav Steinman says, whenever I say anything, you have my permission to publicize. I don't talk private. I don't talk secrets. I talk for the Jewish people to learn a lesson. It's important to give tzedakah. Sometimes a person passes away because they didn't give tzedakah. I know that recently there's a rabbi in Staten Island, Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss. His wife passed away recently from pancreatic cancer. And pancreatic cancer is a very, very difficult cancer. And every time he gave a shiur, he would ask people to daven in his wife's for refuah shalema, and now he's writing articles in the Jewish press about how great his wife was and how much chesed she did, and she seems to have been an exceptional person. He made a very bold statement. He says when he and his wife found out that they had this cancer, the doctors gave her 3 months to live. 3 months. The reason why pancreatic cancer has such a short span is by the time you find out you have it, you've already had it for a year. And it spreads to the liver, it spreads all over. Usually, it's a type of a cancer that by the time you feel the symptoms, it's already too late.
All
What?
all kinds of
Many, but not skin cancer, although it's very deadly also.
Because you see it.
Because you can see it. But stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, one of the worst. So he and his wife, had to deal with this reality, and they decided that they would start a fund to help orphan girls who could not afford weddings to have weddings. And people gave them money on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before Shabbat each week, and they collected money. He says that his wife lived with pancreatic cancer for 2 years.
2 years?
2 years. Now, 2 years is a lifetime. I mean, with pancreatic cancer. Of course, it would be nice if she would have been cured. But he claims that 3 months became 2 years because of the tzedakah he gave. That's what he truly believes. He really honestly believes that. That because he embarked on this tzedakah project, his wife was granted tremendous life, and he took care of her. He was very devoted, and very dedicated with her, very, very devoted. I read an article from Reb David Goldwasser, also a well-known rabbi and speaker. He said that a person came to him that he has 7 children, all who are not married. Like a daughter who's 30 and 28, and then there's a 27 and 26 and 24, 22, 21, like 7 children not married. And he wanted this rabbi to tell him what he could do, who he speak to. Maybe there's a certain segula, certain tefillah, something he could do to help that his children should get married. And after he finished, talking to him, the guy said, "Is there nothing else? Anything else you can suggest?" He says, "Well, listen, I've heard that if you give tzedakah, it can do miracles. And I have a fund where I give out money to poor people. Maybe you want to contribute." Next week, Thursday, there was an envelope in his mailbox with money, cash inside of it. And the next Thursday, and the next Thursday, and the next Thursday, a few months later, his oldest child got engaged and married, and the next one, the next one, the next one. In a period of like a year and a half, 2 years, all 7 were married.
Wow.
It's fascinating. Now, after the last Sheva Brachos, he figured come Thursday, there would be no envelopes in the mailbox. That Thursday, there was another envelope in the mailbox. So he goes to the guy and he says, "You got your wish." He says, "You're right. But now I want grandchildren, then I want my grandchildren to get married, I want great-grandchildren." He says, "This is great. This is a great opportunity. Why should I stop? It worked wonders. I'm going to keep it up." So again, the Rambam says the mitzvah tzedakah, there's no question how great it is. And we're not talking about necessarily a lot. It could be a lot, it could be a little. There's a tremendous amount. Now, everybody asks this question. Hashem says to Moshe, "Speak to the Jewish people and take." If you're speaking to the Jewish people, you should have said, "and they should give," not "they should take." So the first thing is, Hashem didn't want to tell them they have to give, because he didn't want people giving because they have to give. He wanted people giving because they want to give. There's a big difference. We're building the Mishkan. The Mishkan has to be built with money that you give sincerely, out of your heart. Rashi says, "Li, for me, lishmi," has to be l'shem shamayim. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Now, it's possible Moshe may feel certain people shouldn't give. Maybe Dasan and Aviram, I don't want to take their money. So Hashem says to Moshe, "No, Moshe, your job is to take. Whoever comes, you got to take. Take whatever comes." Now, it's interesting. The Nisiim, the heads of each Shevet, they were very generous people. But they made a mistake. What did they do? Moshe says to them, "Okay, we're collecting money for the Mishkan. What do you want to give?" And they says, "Well, you know what, Moshe, we'll make you an offer. Go to everybody else first and collect. Whatever you're short, we'll write out a check." That means, let's say the Mishkan costs $10 million. You collect $9 million, come to us, we'll give you the last $1 million. Let's say you collect only $5 million, we'll give you the last $5 million. Now that's pretty impressive, right? Imagine you want to build a new synagogue, and you go to a wealthy man and say, "Okay, we're ready to build a new synagogue. What would you like to give?" The guy says, "I'll tell you what. Go to everybody else. Whatever you're short, I'll make up the difference. How much is it going to cost you? $10 million? If you collect only $500,000, I'll give you $9,500,000. You would say, "Thank you very much. Fantastic. Success." What happened was they weren't short any money. They got overpaid. They got overcollected. So now the Nesiim almost had nothing to give. They had nothing. They didn't need them. So they panicked and they gave the jewels, so-called the stones for the choshen and the ephod. They got the precious stones for the Urim v'Tumim. But they almost lost their opportunity. So there's a lesson here. When you come to give, first thing is give. Give $100. Give $1,000. And then you can be magnanimous and give at the end. But it takes a certain skill. The schools in Queens, some of the schools in Queens, they had that bracha. Really, it was, Beis Yaakov. Beis Yaakov of Queens had as their president, a person named Danny Sukenik. He was a very generous man. And over the years that he was the president, if Rabbi Newman ever came to him and says, we're short $10,000 for the payroll, he would take out his checkbook and he would write a check for $10,000, no questions asked. Shevach High School had someone that was very generous, Mr. Rosenberg, very generous. If they were ever short, he took out his checkbook, wrote out a check. There was certain broken. Now these people, some of them have passed on, and the schools feel the loss. We don't have people like that anymore. You have that here in Lefrak, didn't you, with your past president to some degree?
Yes.
That means when a bill came, if there was no money, he found a way to pay it. And he didn't publicize how he did it. It was paid. And he went on to the next day and the next day after that. It's an unusual group of people who often sustain organizations and institutions. And to their merit, to their zchut, they have this unbelievable, uncanny generosity. That's what the Nisim had, but it was misplaced. Other people say that Hashem didn't want Moshe collecting. I'll explain to you why. If Moshe Rabbeinu comes knocking at your tent and says, I need to collect money, who's going to say no? Nobody. Everybody's going to say yes. So Hashem said to Moshe, Moshe, I want the people to give out of their own heart. If you go, they're going to be embarrassed not to give. So you just collect the money, but send other people to go around door to door. So that was what it was. They were just afraid that Moshe was a little bit too important, to send on that. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating, the concept of truma, the concept of tzedakah. Now, let's go a step further. It seems over the last few weeks, there's one word that we talk about over and over again, the shekel. Okay? A few weeks ago was Parsha Shkolim. We had to collect the half shekel coin. Every single Jew gave a half shekel coin. During the days of the Beit HaMikdash, it was collected on Rosh Chodesh Adar, during the month of Adar. What was used with the money? It went into the bank account of the Beit HaMikdash, and they brought korbanot. So whenever they sacrificed the korban on behalf of the community, how do they pay from it? From the half shekel coin. Everybody gave. If you were a rich man and you wanted to give 100 shkalim, how much did they take? Half a shekel. If you were a poor man and you wanted to get out of giving nothing, they collected half a shekel. Everybody gave the same. Okay. Comes Haman, our good friend Haman, and he figures all these shkalim paying for all the korbanot. I'm going to wipe it all out. I'm going to give 10,000 shkalim to Achashverosh to buy the rights to destroy the Jews. Okay. Why is Haman spending shkalim? Maybe he should spend euros or some other currency. No, he wanted the shkalim. He wanted to neutralize the shkalim. That Haman, he knew how to get under the skin of the Jewish people. And why not? Haman was all or nothing. Amalek, their attitude was, I'm going to kill all the Jews or no Jews. I got to do all or nothing. When it came time to build the Aron, it was 1.5 by 2.5. Again, all these halves. So we're giving half shkalim, half measurements, and everyone else is giving full measure. So I saw a very interesting pirush, very, very interesting. When it comes to celebrating, let's say, for example, recently the Daf Yomi finished Masechet Baba Basra. So when you finish a whole tractate, a whole Masechet, you make a siyum, you make a party. What happens if a guy says, I only finished 5 pages? Can he make a party? They'll say to him, no. You got to finish the whole book. You can't make a party on 5 pages. But the truth is, that's not true. We believe that even a half job is worth making a party over. We give a half shekel. The Aron was half shekels. Because we reward effort. A person tries hard, and a person feels they have accomplished something and they want to celebrate, we tell them celebrate. That's how we believe. There's a message here. The message is not whole numbers. The message is you don't have to finish the whole job. You don't have to go to the very end. You can accomplish whatever you can accomplish by showing support. Now, I'll give you an example. I mentioned this to you, that, there was this case, one of my many hundreds of cases, of a certain person who wouldn't give his wife a get, if you remember. And we had him locked away in Israel, And then I had to fly to Israel, and we were at the Beit Din HaGadol, and then we went to the Supreme Court. Eventually, he got out of Israel. Cost him a pretty penny. I understand he paid over $100,000 in legal fees. Cost him a pretty penny. Came back to New Jersey, and we filed suit in New Jersey, and eventually he went back to Beis Din, and some people got involved, and his wife ended up getting a get and her civil divorce about 2 weeks ago. So I have it, and sent me an invitation. This coming Sunday, she's making a Su'udas Hoda'ah, a party, to celebrate her freedom. Okay? Mishenichnas Odor, Marbim B'Simcha. Odor comes, we have Simcha. We're going to talk about what the Simcha is in a moment. Nisan is around the corner. Nisan is a time of freedom. And this woman got her freedom, from what she feels. If she had to equate this person, it's not hard to make a speech. Either he was like Amalek or he was like Paro. Either way, he wasn't a good man. He wasn't a good guy. In her mind, without passing judgment. So, of course, I'm invited to this Suda. It's in Lakewood. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to schlep to Lakewood. It's a big trip, back and forth. It's not one of my true pleasure drives. But it's going to be, let's say there's 100 people there. Now, there are going to be people there who probably are going to say to themselves, what did I really do for this girl? And the answer is, maybe nothing. Maybe I said something to Hillel. Maybe once in a while I thought of her and I called her up and I said, I hope you're doing okay. That means a lot of people did a lot. They really risked a lot to help her. But there was the vast majority didn't know how to help her. They just felt bad. Does that count? And the answer is, everything counts. A person says to Hillel for her, it counts. But I didn't do anything. I says, you did something. You cared. I used to send her an email once a week. On Friday, I send a lot of people emails on Friday, especially a lot of these cases, where I simply said to her, I hope your week went well, have a good Shabbos, Rabbi Bryks. Now, that may sound, it takes 3.5 seconds to send. It may mean nothing. But when you're fighting the world, when you feel like you're fighting the world and nobody cares, once in a while to get an email that says, I hope you're okay. Have a good Shabbos. Makes all the difference in the world. Okay? For that, you deserve to be part of the Sudas Hadar. It's a half measure, right? It's a little nothing. But when a person is in pain, sometimes telling the person that you're there, you're not alone. I'm sorry that you're going through this, makes all the difference in the world. You can't always fix everything, but you can tell a person that you feel bad. Chodesh Adar, the Zman of Simcha. So someone said, very interesting, very, very interesting. He says, a person daven Shmona Esrei. How long does it take to daven Shmona Esrei?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Person does Birkat Hamazon. How long does it take?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Now, Shmona Esrei is midrabanan. Birkat Hamazon is from the Torah. So why is Shmona Esrei taking you 5 minutes and Birkat Hamazon is taking you 30 seconds? The answer is as follows. When you daven Shmona Esrei, you're hungry. You need this, you need that, you want to refuah shlema, you need parnasa, so you daven because you're hungry. When you do Birkat Hamazon, you're full. Right. Ubarachta means to bless. Barachta means to run away also, A person who runs away, the roach means to run away. So achalta v'savata, you eat, you're satisfied, ubarachta, you run away. He says, there's a big difference, he says. When you bench, you're full. When you're full, you got 30 seconds, you have no time. When you're doing Shmona Esrei, you're hungry. So, part of what it means to other, having simcha, is to be a joyous thing. Now, what is the zodiac sign of other? This month, coming up, March. What is the zodiac sign of other? It's Pisces. Fish. And that's why many of the signs that say Mishenichlas other show a picture of fish.
2 tails hitting each other.
Right. What is?
Fish, March.
This is March. That's your birthday. Okay. So you're a fish. Okay. You're a whale if you want, a barracuda. What kind of fish do you want to make? A shark? What do you want to make? No shark. Okay.
Shark is better.
Shark is better. Okay. Fish. Now, how many fish? He said 2, which is very interesting
Right.
because
And tails hitting each other.
tails hitting each other. Because the month of Adar is the month that if we need to double a month, have a leap year, it's Adar, so it's 2. Which Shevet is associated with Adar? They say Yosef. Because Yosef is compared to fish, like Ale Ayin, like, there's no Ayin Hora, like fish. That's why the Ayin Hora amulet is a fish. Yosef often is referred to by 2 Shvatim, Ephraim and Menashe. So the fact that fish are 2, Yosef is fish, Yosef has Ephraim and Menashe, is why Adar has that ability to be 2 months. The other Aleph, other Beis. So it's very interesting.
Wasn't the Yosef shore? It says the shore.
Yosef is compared to a shore. B'chor shoro hodolo, correct.
So how is it?
Because he's also considered Ale Ayin, and he's protected from the Ayin
he's
Hora.
both?
Yes.
His kids are Dagim and he's
Correct. And the Ayin Hora doesn't affect fish for 2 reasons. Fish don't have eyelids, so Hashem washes them always, and they're hidden under the water, so you can't see it. What you can't see, there's no Ayin Hora, right? Again, a lot of people believe in Ayin Hora. The Rambam says if you don't believe in it, it can't affect you. A lot of
it's
people.
all psychological.
Right, but I have people who call me up all the time who believe that their ex-husband's girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever put a hex on them, some gypsy hex, and they're so worried about this Ayin Hora, they don't know what to do.
That is true?
Oh yeah, I have phone calls all the
I
time,
never
emails
do.
all the time. Is it true? I
What's
don't know how
hex?
true it is.
Hex.
Hex means a curse.
Oh.
I cannot tell you
Suf.
if it's true.
We're not
We're not supposed to believe in that
that.
stuff. We're not supposed to believe in that stuff. Although, people do put red strings around them, and they do hang things around them. and they do all this. So, they have all these different things. Okay, next. It's interesting, Rashi says, when you give tzedakah for the Beit HaMikdash, it has to be done for the right reason, lishma. We try to do mitzvahs for the right reason. But let's say a person doesn't want to do the mitzvah for the right reason. Kosher. I don't want to keep I'm going to keep kosher, but I don't know the right reason. I don't want to do the right reason. Or Shabbos. Does it make a difference? No. He has to do it anyway. We have a rule. Mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma. Even if you start insincerely, eventually you'll do it for the right reasons. But at least in the beginning, train yourself to do it even if you don't know why. So it's a little bit of a problem because Rashi here says that the money for the Beit HaMikdash had to only be given for the right reasons. If you didn't have the right reasons, you couldn't give. There's a famous Gemara, it's Gemara Psachim. Gemara Psachim says that if a person says, I'm going to give this seller, let's say $100 to tzedakah, on condition Hashem, my son is sick, you send the refuah shlema to my son. So a guy says in shul, they're collecting money for whatever it is for a poor man. Guy gets up and says, I'm going to pledge $100 on condition that Hashem sends a refuah shlema to my son. How would you describe that person? Is he a tzaddik? Is he a rasha? What would you say? Show off. The Gemara says, Harei ze tzaddik gomer. He is a complete tzaddik. But that's shocking. Complete tzaddik. Whoa. Guy is giving money as a bargaining chip that Hashem says send the refuah shlema to his son. Why do you call him a tzaddik gomer?
Which Masechet says that?
What?
Which Masechet?
Psachim, Dav Tes Amud Beis. 9b.
And what does it mean, Tzaddik Gamor? What does it mean?
Well, that's a good question. So Rav Shlomo Kluger says, nowhere does it say that he's a Baal Tzedakah tzaddik, he's a good tzedakah giver. He says he's a tzaddik. Why? Very interesting answer, he says. He says, the fact that he's asking Hashem to cure his son, it means he believes in God. That's why he's a tzaddik. A person in the Holocaust says, I hate God. He's a tzaddik. Why? Because it means that he believes in God. Because there are people who said, there is no God, right? The Holocaust just happened, there is no God. That's an apikoros. So if a person says, I hate God, at least he admits there's a God. you know? So this guy is saying, I'm giving the tzedakah that Hashem should send the refuah shalema. He admits that there's a God, that God, may be involved in making his son sick in the first place, and that God has the power to cure his son. Well, when you believe in all those things, Rav Shlomo Kluger says, maybe you're a tzaddik gomer. Okay. There's a different answer, very different answer I found. Listen to this answer. A poor person, how does he feel collecting money? Like 2 cents. He feels embarrassed. So now you go over to the poor person, you say to the poor person, listen, I'm so happy you're here. My son at home is not feeling well. So I'm hoping if I give you money, through that mitzvah, my son will get a refuah shlema. Now the poor person feels
But he's God.
that, you need me, I don't need you, you need me. It's a different thing. So he says, if the Gemara is talking about a person who doesn't have a son home, it's a story, it's all fake. But he wants to make the poor man feel better. So he gives this whole story, I just want you to know I have a son at home who's not feeling well, I'm hoping a Jew can help him. That's a tzaddik gomer, because he cares about the other person. The Gemara says that if you give tzedakah, I think you get 9 brachos. But if you make someone feel good, you get 11 brachos. The more making a person feel good is much better. So that's a very interesting answer. Now, the truth of the matter is, there's a story they say about a person who never publicly made donations. When they make appeals in shul, and everybody, I'll give $50, I'll give $100. This guy never said anything. At the end of Shabbos, he would always give a check, but never say anything. One week he says $100. Everybody's shocked. The guy never opens up his mouth. Now he's giving $100. So someone goes over and says, why now? He says, my kids are here. I want my kids to see how I give tzedakah. There's a pasuk. Hanis tanos, things that you do privately, la Hashem Elokeinu, only Hashem knows. But haniglaos, things you do publicly, lo nu uvanenu, your children can learn from that. Very often when my grandchildren are at the house and someone rings the doorbell, they're collecting tzedakah, so I'll take a few dollars or $5, I'll give it to my grandson or my granddaughter, I say, go give it. Why? Because I want them to go give the money. When I was in Eretz Yisrael and some of the people who came to see me had kids, and a poor person came, I would give the $1 or $2 to the kid and say, okay, give it over to the tzedakah. That means you want to train children. So it's very nice to be private. But if your children are there, if you're private, they won't see it. If they don't see it, they won't learn from it. So sometimes you have to break your tradition of private because it's part of education, teaching your children. Now, it's all about priorities. Someone said a story, I read a story that there was a break-in in Tiffany's. Have you ever heard of Tiffany's? It's a famous jewelry store. Tiffany's, very expensive jewelry store. So the police were called, there was a break-in, nothing was stolen. What did the robbers do? It was a prank. You know what they did? They mixed up all the prices. They took a $50,000 price tag on a diamond ring and they put it on a small, cheap tray. And the tray that said $1,000, they put that on the diamond ring. They mixed up all the prices.
Good.
Right? That caused Tiffany's to shut down. Because if people come in and they see a $1,000 price tag on a diamond ring worth $50,000, what are you going to say? I'm sorry, that's the wrong price, but it's the price on the object, you got to honor the price. Now you go to a store and you buy something, and it says there's a price tag on it, $1, and the computer says $3. You're going to say, hey, I thought it was $1. It says $1.
They should sell it, yeah.
And the store often
Gives.
gives it to you.
Yeah, they have
So
to.
they have to. So imagine Tiffany's. Shut Tiffany's down. They couldn't open up for days, so they got all the prices fixed up. Now, we laugh, we think it's funny, it's true, but think about it this way. A person goes shopping for an esrog for Sukkot. How much do they spend on a beautiful esrog? $100, $200. How much do they use that esrog?
1 week.
1 week, maybe 6 days, because one day is Shabbos, whatever it is. And only the first day is from the Torah, the rest is midrabanan. And the first day that's from the Torah, how long do you hold that esrog? Maybe 20 minutes. Hallel, and then for Hoshanas, 20 minutes. So you spend $200 to do a mitzvah for 20 minutes. I got it. But now you have to go buy a mezuzah for your door. And how much do you spend? $10. And that mezuzah is going to be on that door 24/7. And it's a Torah mitzvah. So for 20 minutes, you spend $200. But for a mitzvah that's 365 days a year, you spend $10. Or tefillin. So it's like the prices get all mixed up. It's like Tiffany's. It's a mess. We have to make sure we know what our priorities are. We have to be very careful. We have to know what things cost, what mitzvahs are worth, and how to best utilize our money, because people have a limited amount of money. So, you have to figure out how best to utilize what we have. So that's why it's so important to know what you do and what you don't do. Okay, let's go to a few other things, and I'm going to end up with something else in a moment. Okay, here we go. Now, when the Mishkan was finally built, it was such a happy day. The Gemara says it was like Hashem recreated the world. Hashem was so happy when the Mishkan was built, it was like Brias Olam, which is why the Mishkan was built in Adar. Adar comes from the root word lodur. Lodur means to live. That means for thousands of years, Hashem had gone up to the heavens and abandoned the world. Now Hashem came back, the Shekhinah, to once again live amongst people in the Mishkan. So that became a great simcha. When was the Mishkan constructed? The end of Adar. The last week of Adar, Moshe put it up, took it down, put it up, took it down. Finally, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan was the last day. Moshe transferred the kahuna to Aharon, and the Mishkan stood up, and it wasn't taken down unless they were traveling. So it comes out that Adar is a time of simcha, because Hashem came back to the world. That's why. That's why it's a time of simcha. We all connect the simcha. Oh, Adar is Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, Yortzeit. Adar is a story of Purim. Really not true. The story of Purim took place on Pesach. Tanit Esther happened on Pesach. Right? She fasted the first day of Pesach, the
3 days.
14th, 15th, and 16th of Pesach. Yes, Purim, the day that Haman wanted to kill the Jews was Adar, but the miracle of Purim happened on Pesach. Haman was hung on Pesach.
Moshe Rabbeinu 7 Adar, eh?
7 Adar, that's correct. But Haman's Yortzeit. When you sit around the Seder table, you can tell everybody it's Haman's Yortzeit. You can say Tehillim you can say Kel Molei Rachamim for Haman and his sons. It's his Yortzeit. Next week I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But it's Haman's Yortzeit is on Pesach, which is really crazy because it's wild. You don't think of it that way, but that's a different discussion. But Adar is such a happy month because the Shekhinah came down. And then, because it was just as
Happy month.
right, happy month, and because your wife was born, which hopefully you'll remember to buy her flowers and everything else. Right.
Adar 15.
Yes.
Because he do nice job. He push the Jew make a Shua.
Who?
Haman.
Yes, he made a.
Maybe that's why we saw
To
it.
repent.
To repent, that's correct. That means he did more. Achashverosh did him by taking off that ring and did more than all the korbanot and everything else. That's true. And because of that, his great-grandchildren learned Torah and Bnei Brak. Okay, because it was such a happy day, like creation of the world, that's why when the Mishkan was finally set up on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that became the first month. It's like Hashem recreated the world. So Rosh Chodesh Nisan now became Chodesh Harishon, the first month, and Iyar, the second month. Even though we celebrate Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei, but that's really month number 7. Nisan became month number 1 for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is because the Mishkan was built. It's as if Hashem recreated the world. Hashem started over For the first time, Hashem says, starting over. Everything okay?
Yeah, the same one.
What?
Mouse.
A little mouse. He was here last week also. Must be a Jewish neshama that wants to learn Torah. You know.
It's possible.
Yeah, last week he was crawling under there, you know. Okay. Let's go a little bit further. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Anyway,
People eat and there's a small crumbs fall down, and they really,
correct.
that's how they get.
Do you put traps out?
Yeah, we did many, I don't know.
Well, when you start counting them for the minion, we're in trouble. Okay, that's what we'll know. But okay, if Sarah was here, she'd right now be standing on the chair.
Yeah.
She'd be looking at you
She's
like
scared
that.
of it.
She's scared of it, I know that. Okay, next. Three of the Kalim in the Beit HaMikdash had crowns around it. The Aron had a little crown around it, the Shulchan had a crown around it, and the Mizbeach HaZahav, the golden Mizbeach, had a crown around it. Okay? And they say that the Aron refers to Torah, and the Shulchan is the crown of Malchus, the kingdom, and the Mizbeach HaZahav was the Kesher Kahuna. But really, the Gemara has other connections. The Gemara says that the Aron and the Shulchan, there's a Gemara that the Klal, they say, Im ein kemach, if there's no food, ein Torah, there's no Torah. Im ein Torah, ein kemach. There's like a connection. That means, in order to learn Torah, you have to have parnasa, you have to have, someone to support you. And in order to have money in the world to support you have to have Torah. So these two crowns are connected. Of course, the Mizbeach HaZahav comes in, like there's Torah, Avoda, Ugemilas Chesed. So there's a lot of different things that bring people together in trying to understand. Now, just to show you how the Mishkan was built, they needed certain wood. They needed cedar wood. And especially there was an inner beam that went around the entire Mishkan. Where did they get cedar wood in the desert? So the answer is
wood.
The cedar wood.
Oh, they brought it.
They brought it from where?
Yeah.
Yaakov. That means actually it was more than that. Avram planted that in Beersheba. Those were the Eshel Avram. When Yaakov was going down to Egypt, he went to Beersheba and dug out these trees, which means he had to dig out the tree with the roots and box it. And he schlepped those trees down to Egypt and planted it in Goshen. Then the Jews, when they left Mitzrayim, took those trees to the desert in order to have them build the Mishkan. So they didn't use any wood. They wanted wood that could trace its way back to Avraham Avinu, who did the mitzvah achnasas orchim. Now it's fascinating. Think about this for a moment. The Gemara brings out a story with Rav Chia. People were forgetting Torah. So Rav Chia planted flax. And when the flax grew, he cut the flax and made nets. And then he got the nets and he captured deer. Then he slaughtered the deer and he took the skin, the hide, and he dried it out, made paper. And he wrote the Torah and taught Torah that way. Why didn't you just go to Staples and buy paper? Because he didn't want it to be done except l'shem shamayim. So every step of the way had to be l'shem shamayim. The Mishkan was done l'shem shamayim. Now think about this. Okay, let's think about this for a moment. Everybody applauds Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he did something. Everybody was collecting money from the Egyptians, right? And Moshe Rabbeinu was busy doing what? Taking care of Yosef's grave, Yosef's body. So the Gemara says, Chacham leiv tikach mitzvos. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the smart one, he took mitzvos. Everybody wanted money, he took mitzvos. But if you think about it, there had to be a few hundred people, at least, who when they were leaving Mitzrayim also didn't take money. They were busy digging up these trees. It had to take a few days. These were enormous trees that had been growing for hundreds of years. To give you an example, I don't know how you're familiar, in California, there's trees called the redwood. Have you ever heard of these redwood trees? They're enormous. They have pictures of these trees that are so wide, they cut a hole through it that a car can go through. Make a tunnel through the tree. These trees are like 100 feet in the air. They're enormous, enormous trees.
The redwood.
Redwood.
Is an oak, no?
There's a type of an oak, I think. Yeah, it's a very strong tree. So these Jews in Egypt who had to take these trees, had to dig them up, and then put them on wagons. They couldn't carry them. I mean, this was a big job. So there were groups of people who also, I guess, were Chacham Lev, who did mitzvahs. Maybe the difference is that all their life, when they were growing up as little kids, they were playing around these trees, and they would ask their mother and father, what are these trees? And what did their parents say? One day we're going to leave Egypt, and we're going to build the Mishkan with these trees. These trees come from Avraham Avinu. So when you grow up with this in your backyard, it's very special to you. So maybe that to them was like as valuable as gold. So maybe their motivation was the same gold. No one was thinking about Yosef's coffin, that only Moshe could think of. But if you think about what the Jews did when they left Mitzrayim, you've got to, I always tell you to think about what it was like. Put yourself in that mindset. And the truth of the matter is, leaving Mitzrayim the way they did was fascinating that they were able to do and take those trees. Miriam was brilliant. Everybody was packing food and water. What was Miriam packing? What did Miriam, people were taking swords and bows and arrows. What did Miriam pack in? What did Miriam and the ladies pack in? You don't know? Drums, clarinets, harp, musical instruments. Why? Because when they crossed the Yam Suf and they wanted to sing the song Oz Yoshir Moshe, they needed musical instruments, a band. Who broke out the musical instruments? Miriam. People said, what? You thought of bringing musical instruments? She says, of course I did. I knew Hashem was going to perform miracles. I knew we were going to be singing songs. I knew it was going to be a happy occasion. I brought the band.
She's the first one who played the drums.
Play the drums.
She's smart.
She's a smart woman. That means people are in Egypt. They're slaves. They're trying to get out. They're thinking about 1,000 different things. Who's thinking about playing songs? Who's thinking about singing praise to Hashem? Miriam was. Miriam brought drums.
How about Shevet Levi?
Shevet Levi. Miriam was from Shevet Levi. Miriam was from Shevet Levi. Maybe she got it in, but she brought those drums. She brought the tambourines and everything else.
Sarah Banashir, she also played drums.
She might have brought it also. The women, they were right on the mark. They brought everything. That's right, back then.
So the ladies were the singers.
The ladies
were the singers.
Were the ones who saw a little bit into the future and had a positive spin on life.
Well, when the baby is born, that's what they do. They sing a song.
There you go. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about, we have a few more minutes yet. Listen to this. I just want you to follow this through. Why do we keep Shabbos? Because Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day. Got it. How many forbidden 39, there are 39 melachot. There are 39 acts of work. Not work that you and I think schlepping. We can't plant, we can't water, we can't cut, we can't fix things, we can't cook. There are 39 melachot on Shabbos that are forbidden. How do we decide what those 39 melachot are?
Everything work in the Beit HaMikdash, not allowed to do.
Everything that they did in the Beit HaMikdash, we cannot do. Okay. But we don't keep Shabbos because of the Beit HaMikdash. We keep Shabbos because of creation of the world. So then the Gemara comes in. The Gemara says that Bezalel knew how Hashem created the world. That means Bezalel knew all the different things Hashem used to create the world, and he used all those different things to build the Mishkan. So it was Bezalel who taught us how to keep Shabbos. Okay? And that's why each week it says over and over again, next week you see, keep the Shabbos day, V'shomrei Esos Shabbos, all through Kisisa, Vayaka, B'kudei, always says that. There is only one of the 39 forbidden things that are mentioned in the Torah. 38 are not mentioned at all. You won't find any of it in the Torah. there's only one thing mentioned in the Torah. Which one? Lo savaru eish
בכל מושב.
v'shosechem b'yom HaShabbos. Fire. Only fire. And the Gemara says, if you make a fire on Shabbos, you're not chayav misa. There's only malchus. That means fire is set aside. It's not part of the Chilul Shabbos. It's in a different group. Why is that the only one? Now I'm going to shock you. Betzalel said, when Hashem created the world, he didn't use 39 different acts. He only used 38. Fire was not used to create the world. Okay, see that? See how spooky it gets? Fire was not used to create the world. How does he know that? When did Hashem create fire? When did Hashem?
Fourth day.
No, that was the sun.
After the...
Motzei Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Why did he create fire? Because Adam and Chava were cold to warm them up. And because fire was created Motzei Shabbat, that's why we do in Havdalah, we say Borei Monei Oish. So if fire was created Motzei Shabbat, it means it wasn't part of creation of the world. If it wasn't part of creation of the world, there should be mutter on Shabbos.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's the only one written in the Torah. Salah says, I have to add one, it came after Shabbat. Fire. And that's why he taught us fire. And that's why fire is different. If you violate fire, you don't get the same onish, because fire was not used to create the world.
So if you violate with the fire, you punish more or less?
No, less. Only Malchus. Because it wasn't part of the creation of the world. The whole reason we keep Shabbos is because Hashem created the world in 6 days, rested on the 7th. But fire was not part of the 6 days. So therefore, if you violate Shabbos with fire, you only get Malchus because it was added after. When was it after? Motzei Shabbos.
The same as the light. If you
Right.
suddenly, by accident did it.
That's correct. It's afterwards. Who taught us what the 39 malachos were? Betzalel. The 38 he taught us from the creation. And then the last one, the 39, the fire, he taught us in the Torah itself.
Sal, is it the guy 12 years old?
He was 13 years old. So, and therefore, how do we know? So now there's a whole connection between the creation of the world and the Mishkan. Because it was through the Mishkan that we learned what Shabbos was all about. And who taught it to us was Betzalel. So it's fascinating how this all comes about. And none of it is in the Torah. Other than keeping the Shabbos day, the 39 malachot are not written in the Torah. They're written in the Gemara, but they're not written in the Torah. It goes even further. Take for a moment, we'll talk about this a little bit maybe next week. When Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, tree of wisdom, right, tree of knowledge, they used 4 of the 5 senses. They touched the fruit, they spoke to each other, they heard each other, they tasted it, right? They saw the fruit. The one thing they did not do was,
Smell.
they did not smell it. The one sense that remained pure, that didn't sin, was the sense of smell.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Okay? That's just as a side thing. That's why Motzei Shabbat